Purpose and methods of government intervention. Purpose and method. Why do government have to intervene? Government have to intervene because there's misallocation of resources. So, and the government of the country would not just be looking, folding arms and seeing the economy going down. So government has to do something. That is government intervention. But methods government have to use might be different. That's what we talk about, methods here. How do they carry out? There's going to be what we call regulations that has to be used. There are going to be rules. There are going to be different strategy government have to use to ensure that the market failure can be corrected. That is the purpose. The purpose of government intervention is to correct market failure. That's the main point. So, if government uses different intervention methods to correct market failure, the total welfare will be increased if the cost of the intervention is less than the benefit gained from the intervention. So, if government tries to correct market failure, are you with me? If government tries to correct market failure and they successfully did it, in the course of ensuring that their cost, the cost of controlling it, is less than the benefits gained from intervention, then the welfare will increase for the community, for the citizens. So that means government have successfully corrected market failure. Is it clear? So ways in which government does methods now. What are the methods in which government can use to correct market failure? The first one is the imposition of taxes, indirect tax. So when you talk about indirect tax, these are taxes paid on consumption or expenditure. So the imposition of tax at a level which negative externalities are eliminated and the marginal social cost of production equals to the marginal social benefit. What we are saying is this: when government impose tax, government must impose tax to ensure that the tax will be able to eliminate negative externalities. So it's not just going to government is not just going to increase tax. Government will do it to ensure that that negative externality is eradicated. I know what a negative externality is. When your social cost exceeds your private benefits, then there's externality. So government must ensure that it is taking away whatever it is, negative externality. So that's about indirect tax. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So at that point in time, your marginal social cost will equal to your marginal social benefit. So that means the extra unit that will be produced, the cost will be equal to the extra unit of the extra gain from that production. At that point in time, then there's no any external negative externality. Because if we have increased our output, we would have done that to increase the consumption and the gain from that output. So the only time you can have your negative externalities eradicated or eliminated is when your marginal social cost equals to your marginal social benefits. Is it clear?
Yes.
And that will be done through indirect tax. You have the case study now, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What else? We read indirect taxes now, right? Yeah.
What subsidies?
The case study comes before that. Okay, it's subsidy before. Another way in which government can correct market failure is through subsidies. So what are subsidies? Subsidies are financial help from government. So financial aid from government is what we call subsidy. So what are the advantages of subsidies? One, subsidies can be used when there are positive externalities. Now, remember in indirect tax is used when there is what? Negative externality. So if government wants to eradicate negative externalities, government will use indirect taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that? So for positive externalities, so government can encourage positive externality with the use of subsidies. So that means to continue positive externalities. So whenever people are suffering based on the benefits they get from certain consumption, government can help because these things are important for their well-being or for their standard of living. Do you understand now? So the difference between subsidies and indirect taxes, indirect tax can be used to eradicate or eliminate negative externality, and subsidies can help whenever there is positive externality. So, 2, they can be used to correct information failure, as the government can subsidize the provision of information to those suffering from lack of information. So, government can also, because when there is information failure, consumers might underestimate the benefit by not buying so much, and they can overestimate the benefit by buying so much, which becomes misallocation of resources. Do you understand? So, with subsidies, government would use subsidies to help those that are lacking information so that they can make the right decision, so that they can become rational whenever they have to take decisions. So government will use subsidy to correct information failure by paying for information so that those that are lacking this information can receive this information. Then they can behave rational. Is it clear?
Yes.
The problems now. The problems of subsidies. Number 1, they may be difficult to target. What do we mean here? Subsidies can be too long, or can be too large or too small to correct that market failure. So government might think they are doing the right thing by subsidizing. Meanwhile, it is the wrong thing they are doing. So whatever caution, whatever strategy government used to correct that market failure in the course of using subsidies might not be enough to correct the subsidy, to correct the market failure, or might be too much to correct market failure. Why is this possible? This is possible because government might also be lacking information. So if government is lacking information, that means decision government will take might be too much or too little to correct that market failure, which is another problem making. Just what we're saying here.
Yes.
Subsidies is good. Subsidies helps to encourage positive externalities. But the problems are, 1, subsidy may be difficult to target. They might be difficult to target. How? They might not be enough, or they might be too much to correct the market failure. Why? Because government also might be lacking information. Those that are working for government, they might not be giving the right statistics because they are too lazy to do it. So decision statistics they give to government, which government might want to use in correcting market failure, might not be enough to correct the market failure, or might be too much to correct the market failure. So when government gives too much, when government spends too much, then it becomes misallocation of resources. When government spends too less, it is still market failure. That is what they mean by they may be difficult to target. Is it clear?
Yes.
2, there can be conflict with other policy objectives. For subsidies, someone has to pay for it. Some people would have paid taxes. The government is using that money for subsidy. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So those that are paying taxes, they might be suffering from other things, which government is not making provision for. Instead, government is making provision for other things, which those that are going to enjoy it or benefit from it are not even paying tax. So government is taking money from some people to help others, while those that are paying these taxes also need some help. So that is conflict of objectives. It's a disadvantage, isn't it? It's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are paying to government, expecting government to do certain things, but they are not doing it. Rather, government is doing other things. Conflict.
True.
The 3rd one. Subsidies can be difficult to remove. When a subsidy is given, now the removal of subsidy causes social crisis. Some government can be toppled. They take over some government because of subsidy removal. It happens in Venezuela, India, because of subsidy. Iran.
Yeah.
Because the government of these countries, they remove subsidy. The citizens get angry. They get angered. Riots.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So when whenever government introduce subsidies, it becomes difficult for them to remove it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? So these are the problems about introducing subsidies. Any question about subsidy now?
No.
But you have to take note that subsidy helps when it comes to positive externalities. They encourage, especially when the consumption is about positive externality. And another way in which government can correct market failure or intervene in the market is through imposing maximum price. So when you talk about imposing maximum price, that means the highest price you can sell as a consumer, as a producer. Government would have said, okay, yeah, you cannot sell more than this price. That is what we mean by maximum price. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. So imposing maximum prices on necessities such as food and housing can make them affordable. So when government impose price on the food consumptions that are very important, that will cause positive externality, then it becomes affordable. So the problem about maximum price is that the supply will fall and could lead to a black market. When government impose maximum price on necessities such as food and housing, the problem about these things is that the supply will fall, because at that point in time, firms will not be willing to sell due to the prices because the prices would have fallen. If government have come up with maximum price, that means you cannot sell above this price. Firms might not be happy producing such products, so the supply for such product will fall, which could lead to what? Black market. That means they want to sell it behind at a very huge price. That is what it means by black market. They won't sell in the open market anymore. They sell behind the market. So here, you have to take note. If maximum price is set above the free market price, there will be no effect in the market. Why? If now government sets the maximum price above the free market price, what is the free market price? The free market price is where the equilibrium quantity demanded equals to the equilibrium quantity supplied. So if government sets a price above the equilibrium price, it will not have any effect. Do you understand? Because the free market have already agreed to sell at an equilibrium price, which is enough, which is okay for the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. So putting a price above the equilibrium price, imposing price above the equilibrium price will not have effect in the market. Do you know why now? Because there is equilibrium. There's equilibrium, that means that the quantity demanded equals to quantity supplied at the same output. So if government are setting price above the equilibrium price, then it will not have effect. People will not buy, because above equilibrium price is a price that is not affordable. Setting price above the equilibrium price by government, that means imposing maximum price above the equilibrium price, will not have any effect in the market, because at the market there's equilibrium. And what is equilibrium? There's equilibrium quantity demanded equals to quantity supplied at an equilibrium price. So you setting a price above that equilibrium price will not have any effect. I think it's clear. I said three things here. Setting maximum price will make consumption affordable for consumers. But the problem is that it could lead to a black market, selling behind the market. Because the supply would have fallen. Firms will want to sell to those who can afford them, not in the open market. And if government impose price above if government impose maximum price above equilibrium price, it will not have any effect in the market, because in the market equilibrium must be obtained. The quantity demanded must be equal to quantity supplied. So setting a maximum price above the equilibrium price will not have any effect in the market. I think it's clear. We go to minimum price. For minimum price, maximum price is used to correct market failure based on the consumption that are positive, that gives positive externality. So setting minimum price. Government will use minimum price to correct negative externality. Do you understand? Government will give minimum price to correct what? Negative externality. So minimum price are set above the equilibrium price, not below. Above. For maximum price, they are set below the equilibrium price. I think you understand the difference here.
Yeah.
So here, imposing minimum prices by government is to correct negative externalities. This reduces the quantity demanded and at the same time increases the quantity supplied. This can also lead to a black market, where that product that government has imposed minimum price on can be sold at a lower price.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So maximum price will create black market, minimum price will create black market. Minimum price will create a black market where the product can be sold at a lower price. Because government would have set a price above the equilibrium price. The equilibrium price is the price both consumers and suppliers have agreed to sell. Do you get it? So if the minimum price is set below the free market price, it will not give any significant effect. There won't be effect on the market. Do you know why? Because the equilibrium price is that price where the quantity demanded equals to quantity supplied. Setting it below it will not change anything, especially for cigarettes, which is a demerit good. Firms will be willing, the supply would have been much for firms, so they will be willing to sell at a lower price in the black market. That's about minimum price. Is it clear?